Hey friend, let's talk about how we could all try to do a little less. It can be very tempting to always try to do more. So we fill up our time with things that make us feel busy but don't really give us meaningful results. We also completely ignore the fact that we need space to function. If you think that this is just the way life is and you can only be happy and content in retirement, then you will spend a lot of your good years feeling miserable and overwhelmed. And by the time you finally retire, you will have earned yourself all kinds of chronic problems caused by decades of stress. One thing I'm constantly working on is making sure the way I spend my days reflects what I really want for myself. I have this tendency to forego what I need today to prepare for some elusive tomorrow when I will finally get to be happy and I will finally be allowed to enjoy the benefits of my sacrifice. But I don't have to entirely give up my well-being in the present. There has to be a way that I can work on my long-term goals without being absolutely miserable today. After all, if I reach my goals when I'm exhausted and sick, then what's the point? So I've seen a lot of content about people's 5 to 9 before their 9 to 5, and it's really inspiring. But then you also see content of people's 5 to 9 after their 9 to 5. So now you have inspiration both for your morning routine and your evening routine. And the focus of a lot of this content is some sort of extreme productivity. But if you try to do all of it at the same time, you will definitely burn out. And sometimes we do too much on our own. We don't need external input for that. Even looking at some of our mundane activities, we have a tendency to overdo the things that keep us in our comfort zone as a way to avoid doing the difficult things that would get us out of our comfort zone and will actually give us results that are meaningful. Let's take a work example. If I'm really good at working on spreadsheets, I may spend unnecessary amounts of time polishing up and formatting Excel spreadsheets that are just fine. And that might make me feel very productive because I'm technically doing work. It's not like I'm scrolling on my phone. But this could be a really sneaky way for me to avoid doing the things that I know would make the biggest impact. Maybe I need to write a report or make an important phone call. Whenever a meaningful task takes me out of my comfort zone just a little bit, my default is to do the things that I'm really good at that feel easy instead. So I end up doing too much where it's completely unnecessary. Some things we do deserve our absolute best effort. Those are usually things with long-term impact on our lives. For example, raising healthy and happy kids, making big financial decisions, picking a good life partner, taking care of our health, etc. All these things have a lasting impact on our lives. But most things have a shorter lifespan and a much smaller impact. And there's no reason that those things would require the same amount of effort and dedication. For things that don't have much of a lasting impact, we should get comfortable with delivering results that are satisfactory or just good enough. Not everything has to be your very best. Writing an email to a coworker does not create the same level of impact and therefore should not require the same amount of effort as writing a paragraph for the company's annual report. We don't need to aim for the same level of perfection for both. So let's take a look at 5 ways that we can all do less without hurting our long-term goals. The first idea is to clarify what matters. I'm sure you've all heard of the Pareto principle. We should all try to focus more on the vital few and less on the trivial many. Focus on the 20% of activities that creates the biggest impact in your life. I've shared this before, but when it comes to our productivity, we should always start by doing the most important thing and then see where everything else falls. And if you don't get to the small stuff, then you probably will be just fine. Another great way to focus on what matters is to say no to all the things you don't want to do. Cut back on non-essential commitments. And again, here's a tip I've shared in another video, but pre-decide how you will turn down offers that you don't want to accept. So write out some scripts to say no. Practice them and have them ready to go so that when an offer pops up, you can turn it down immediately. The second idea is to do only what is necessary and required, nothing more. Unless it's something that brings you a lot of joy that you're doing for yourself. When I was a new parent, I remember organizing my baby's clothes by color and by category and spending a lot of time folding everything. For some reason, I thought that was going to help me stay very organized, and part of me believed that that's what a good mom would do. But pretty soon I realized that folding baby clothes is completely unnecessary. So I still kept everything organized by category, but I mixed colors and I stopped folding and everything was just fine. The clothes were so tiny, it made no difference. And even now that my daughter is 5, we keep the same system. Some of her larger clothing gets put on hangers, but all the rest goes into drawers by category. She mostly dresses herself, and our system works without a glitch. The best part is that there is no unnecessary effort on my part. To some of you seasoned parents, this may sound obvious and silly, but it's a great way to illustrate what I mean. There are probably areas of your life where you're doing a little bit more than necessary, and that little bit of extra effort doesn't really create any meaningful results. In fact, if you stopped doing some of it, no one would notice and no one would bring it up. So think about the areas of your life where you go above and beyond because you think it's the right thing to do. Stop doing some of that extra work for a few days and see if anything negative happens. If nothing bad happens, then give yourself permission to let go of that extra work. The third idea is to practice single tasking. I don't think I need to go into too many details here because we've all seen articles about how multitasking is a myth. What we're really doing is task switching, and there is a real cognitive cost every time we switch tasks. So when you're working on something, remember to cut out all distractions, especially the internet and social media. We've all heard this advice before, but it doesn't mean that we practice it. The fourth idea is to set a limit, set a maximum. Think about it as setting a container around your important work. In our quest to be productive, a lot of us set minimums on things we want to do. I need to exercise at least 3 times a week. But we rarely set a maximum. So when we feel very inspired, we can go overboard and burn ourselves out. The cost of this kind of burnout is that we then need time to recover, which will keep us from meeting the minimum we had originally set for ourselves. So if you find yourself going from doing too much to doing too little because you need recovery time, why not try to do less consistently and maintain your levels of productivity? So consider setting limits on how many things you do each day and each week. Set limits on your work hours as well. And I mean both the work you do for your job and the work you do for your personal projects. At some point, doing more work only leads to lesser results. When you hit this point of diminishing returns, there's no value in continuing to work hard. And the fifth idea is to aim for B+ work. In his book called Extreme Productivity, Robert Posen talks about the importance of not producing A+ work when B+ work is sufficient. Don't let perfectionism mess you up. Give yourself permission to create a bad first draft and then edit it to make it beautiful. And remember to differentiate between work that requires your A+ effort and work that will be just fine with B+ effort. The work you actually complete is much better than the perfect idea that you never get to work on because perfectionism won't let you do it. When you try doing less using these 5 ideas, you may be pleasantly surprised that your productivity goes up. And hopefully you feel like you have a little bit more breathing room and space to just be. Take good care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.